Hello, and welcome to the Goddess Way interview series, where we're learning how to tap into our feminine powers to create a life of wealth, beauty, and pleasure. And today it's my great pleasure to be with Kimberly Seltzer. She's a therapist, certified style coach, dating coach, and matchmaker. So welcome, Kim.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So before we dive in, I'd like to just say a prayer and open the energy. So here we go. And call upon a goddess energy. Please anchor this call with beauty, with grace, with flow, with divinity, with light and ease and play, with an opening in our consciousness and what is possible for us. This or something even better for the highest good of all concerned. Okay. So you have a unique approach in working with people.
Yes, I do.
You're very multi-talented. So can you tell us a little bit more about your work and all the modalities you pull in?
Oh gosh, where do I start? Well, it's funny because, life is such a journey, and I know that, you teach that as well. And if you were to ask me about 15 years ago, if I were to do what I do now, I would have said you were crazy because, I came from just this traditional background of being a therapist, and I, practiced for many, many years, over 10 years when I lived in Chicago, and in the traditional sense with families and couples and individuals and all that. And just to infuse my life journey, because I think it speaks to what I do today so much so that I would be amiss not to mention my story. So here I had this kind of traditional life, right? Good girl from Chicago. I had the house, the picket fence, the dog, the kids, the husband, you name it.
Okay.
And we picked up and we moved across the United States to La La Land. I know you.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah.
Right. And it was just, for me, we landed, and I always joke we did what all the other people here in LA did. We get a divorce, and I'm joking because obviously there were other issues going on in this
right.
Right? But literally, that is where the record stopped, and the life that I knew stopped. And I had to actually figure out what I was going to do with my life, because at that point, if anyone were to come to me as a therapist, I always joke, like, I couldn't even get off the couch myself.
Right.
You got problems, let me go.
Yeah. You're like, I need some therapy.
Yeah, and there was no way. But what it did do is, like how we always say we're our own best teachers often. And I really had to do a lot of soul searching. I had to really do, kind of this, like, what path am I going to go down? Because I have to tell you, the path that I was going down was a very, very dark, dark path. And I had clothes to reflect that. I mean, back in that time, I was dressed in all black, oversized, like, mommy clothes. I had the nursing bras on, mind you. I wasn't pregnant any longer, and I still had the bras on. It shows you how stuck I was, right? And then I had the Birkenstocks, you name it. And I looked in the mirror one day, and I hated what I saw and what I had become. And so what does a girl do when nothing fits any longer? And I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. I went shopping. And this is kind of that pivotal moment of what I practice today, because let me tell you, up until that point, I had a great support system. I mean, I had therapy, I had counseling, my whole family rallied, my friends were amazing. I processed a lot. I did a lot of that inside work, but I still couldn't get out of my own way until that day I went shopping.
Wow.
I know it sounds superficial, but it's not when you hear about what happened. So I go into the store, and I pick out, of course, all the things that I normally pick out, black clothes, and I'm like putting them all in my cart, and they were probably 3 sizes too big still. And this personal shopper was watching me. And when I went into the dressing room, there was a knock on the door, and she's like, Miss, excuse me, I was wondering, I've been watching you, and I think you would look really good in this. And she holds up this red dress, kind of like the red that you have on with your beautiful berry lips. I love, by the way. Thank you. And doesn't she look fabulous? See, this is what I'm talking about. And here I am all in black, and she's holding up this red dress that looked like 3 sizes too small. And I said, that's really sweet of you, but that's not my size, and that is so not my color. And she said, honey, that is your color and that is your size. Try it on.
Uh-huh.
And I said, okay. So
Yeah.
I tried it on and I slipped in it and I twirled around like Cinderella and I looked in the mirror again and it was like, bam, it just hit me.
There you are.
Yeah, I hadn't seen myself in so long, but she was right. That was me. And I bought that costume that day, and I call it a costume because I still didn't believe it. And I went out into the world, and a funny thing started happening. My confidence started growing. New suitors began to come my way, and opportunity was knocking on my door. And I realized the symbiotic relationship between the outer and the inner, and it wasn't changing who I was inside. It actually, that outside, that vibration, that kind of visceral experience I was having matched the inner vibration. And so I became so much more confident, and it really is what I do today. So, I know that's a long-winded story to answer your question, but that is what I teach today. Most people start from the inside out. I start from the outside in, because I truly believe that you have to feel and see something different sometimes to change. And so, I do a combination of things, using my therapy, using my coaching, using my theater and my communication background to help really bring out like that charisma, that energy in people so they attract what they want, whether it's love or money. Because to me, it's the same thing. Love and money have like a direct correlation with one another. And I totally saw that. And I see in my practice when I help people with their careers and just creating something different. And so, yeah, that's what I do today. Did that answer your question?
I love that you're doing the, it's this like approach from the outside in, because I think a lot of people, kind of start inside out, and that's important, but we need the two, right? Like we need to
Totally.
how we look as well as how we feel from the inside, and like it seems like a great marriage. And I had something kind of a really shocking experience where I was in Paris, and I had gotten there before I could check into my Airbnb, so I had my luggage and I was all frumpy and
Yeah.
I was like, let me just peruse around, and then I got to go and change and freshen up and like spruce up. And I went back and literally they did not recognize me. They thought I was a different person. So it's like, I'm sure like I didn't put that much makeup on or anything, but it was just the total energy change that I had when I felt good about how I looked.
And did you find yourself being treated differently?
Yeah, like it was not that they weren't like happy to help before, but it was kind of like I commanded more presence, I guess.
Yes, and power. And, and I see that happen all the time where, because, a lot of women push back with this, they'll say, well, I don't want anyone to change me. I like for who I am. And if people don't like me for me, then F them, like I hear that all the time.
Right.
And what I really want to highlight here and what we're going to talk about today is that this isn't about changing who you are. It's actually bringing out the inner goddess. This whole summit is about being a goddess. And sometimes your outer doesn't match the inner. And you gotta do both because it's marketing yourself. First impressions are huge.
Right.
Most of you listening today, there's something that drew you to the summit because you're wanting to better your life in some way and create opportunities, whatever that is. And so if you knew that you could change or tweak a few things on the outside, it would make a huge impact. I mean, why wouldn't you do it? All this other stuff takes time, right?
Right.
Like this inner stuff takes a lot. I mean, and we do have to do that work. That's just as important. And I'm a therapist, so I'm safely doing that too. So I can say that safely. But there's not too many things in life that has that instant result. And I see it with my clients over and over again. There was this, if I may share a story, I like talking in stories because it helps people visualize what I'm talking about. She called me up and she's like, Kim, she's been divorced for 25 years and she didn't know really how to kind of get out there. All she'd been doing is raising her kids and working, and she hadn't dated in that whole time. And so she flew and did an intensive with me, and that's the full shebang, right? Like we did shopping and coaching and flirting and the photo shoot and all of that. Yeah, I teach by the way, any single ladies out there.
Yeah.
And so when I did, the first thing I do is like an assessment, and that's kind of the therapist in me understanding her journey and what was keeping her stuck. And the first thing I noticed is that she was giving her power away in so many ways. The way she was communicating, the way, like little phrases she would use, apologizing all the time. But then it was time to go shopping, and she's like, Kim, I have a confession. I said, what's that? She said, I can't look in the mirror.
Oh.
I said, what? She said, no, I cover the mirrors at home. I can't look in the mirrors. I hate what I see. And I said, well, thank you for telling me. And now look, if I was a therapist sitting in an office, we probably would sit through this and talk it out, but that's not what she needed. Mm-hmm. She needed to feel and see something different because that was her story that she was stuck in, right? So we walked through the store. I held her hand, and I see the tears are pouring down. She's looking at the mannequins. Her anxiety is raising. I said, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to put on this leather jacket, and I want you to put on these really sexy boots. And just these two items, and I want you to turn around and look in the mirror for 5 seconds. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
She's like, okay. She did it, and she's just staring at herself, right? And the tears are falling, and all of a sudden she says to me, I've never seen myself so beautiful.
Wow.
And like now I'm like starting to cry, and like,
so profound.
Talk about finding the goddess, right? Like she always was. I mean, I saw a beautiful woman in front of me, but she didn't see it, and that was the problem. Right. But by shifting a few things in the way that her image looked for herself, she saw something different. And then from there, I honestly created a monster. She was skipping through the store. She was dressing. She was changing her clothes with the changing room door open. Like this is so many like body shame issues and all that stuff. And I'm happy to say, like, happy ending. She went back. We had a photo shoot. She really got her confidence up. She started dating up a storm, and she got into a great relationship with a man. And it was like that kickstart that she needed to really like just get out of her own way.
And what a fun and pleasurable kickstart, right? Like,
oh, I'm all about fun, honey. Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic, and feel beautiful, and feel like, they really look beautiful. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned that fun thing. It's something that I really help people with. I think we're getting so serious, especially in this day and age. We're also busy. We have these kind of scrawls on our faces, and that impacts the way that we walk through life. That impacts the way that, or the lack of opportunity we might have when it comes to networking or dating or whatever that is. And so, getting people out of their head and into their body and learning to have fun. And I do have an improv background, I will admit. So I make people get a little goofy so that they can let go of all that like tightness that they have and really be the goddess that they are.
Yeah. And how can women really tap into their own goddess essence and start to dress that way? Like, even if they really identify with that in their size or shape or age?
Yes. And, I like to say, I'm not this kind of cookie cutter stylist from LA and say, oh, you must wear this so you'll look fabulous. Like, I have a lot of science to helping women dress. I mean, the first and foremost is really helping women get a personal style. Mm-hmm. And what people don't understand, that there's a difference between style and fashion. Fashion is what's trending. That's what kind of like you see come and go. Okay. Style is everlasting. And that's what you want to pay attention to, because that tells a story about who you are in the world. And if you look at the definition of image is the way that people perceive you, and that determines how people treat you, much like the story that you shared when you walked into the store. Yes. Image does matter. And, whether we like it or not, it's something that we should embrace and feel good about, because it can make a difference in the way that we move. So once you get a personal style, everybody's different. People live in different climates. People have different lifestyles. Everyone has different careers. You got to know what's kind of your culture, for the clothes that you wear. The second thing is really looking at their body type. And that's the easiest. I have a free gift at the end that I'll share, just a little like forecasting here. Sure. teaching women how to measure themselves so that they know what body type they are. And once you know what body type you are, then you can know what clothes flatter your figure and what clothes to stay away from. Because, you know, a lot of times women hate shopping because they put on the wrong thing. And then they say, oh, you know, nothing fits me. I hate my body. I don't look like that mannequin. But the truth is if you knew exactly what cut to put on your body, you would feel differently than, you know, when you look in the mirror, you see a picture of yourself, you're like, wow, that makes a difference just by like changing up the collar or, you know, the way things fit your particular body. And then, you know, the third thing I would say is color. You know, color, and we talked about that. I mean, like the color you have on is so beautiful. Like,
oh, thank you.
Yeah, it really brings out the essence of your skin, and it's also like it's powerful and soft at the same time. So you know, like if you're looking to kind of up your game in business, there's certain colors that are power colors, but you also have to keep in mind your skin tone, because not every color looks good on every skin tone. Yeah, so I teach people about that as well. And if they're single, of course, ladies, I'm going to teach you of your dating image and what men like, because that is a whole different ball game. But
yeah, please go into a little more detail. Like, what makes a great first impression on a date? Like, what's a really attractive, feminine, kind of sexy look?
Well, I will say I work with just as many men as I do women, so I get the inside scoop.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm not just saying this, like, oh, okay, this is what I think. It's what I know.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And what, you know, there's a lot of things that go into what men like. Obviously, a disclaimer, you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? To each his own. But there are some general universal things that men find attractive. Number one, they love a woman in a dress. They just love it. And, you know, a lot of women say to me they can't wear dresses, or they hate dresses, or it's not them, or, you know, and I honor that, and that's fine. And it's great to have a casual look too. But I also challenge those women, because I usually find a dress for every body type. And often when women don't like dresses, it's because they maybe don't know what looks good on them. And there's also ways, like if you live in a cold climate, you and I came from a cold climate, I get it, you don't want to wear a dress all the time, right? But if you have a date, you're just meeting someone for happy hour, there are ways that you can layer yourself, or you could wear it for that occasion and feel really feminine and sexy. Ladies, men adore that. Like it's such a feminine look. Why? Because they don't wear it. You know? It's like they wear the blazers and the jeans. You know, they like the shiny things. They love the second thing. They love color. They love red, pink, and white. Those, and this is what researchers backs this up. This, again, not me just saying this.
Wow.
Yeah, and especially if you do like online photos, or like you walk into a date, you want a great first impression, wear a red dress and you will knock him out of the water every single time.
Wow.
It's just like bees to honey, right? Like they are gravitating towards that. And then
it feels so bold. Like I don't think I've ever worn a red dress on a first date.
That's because you're from New York. No?
We're black.
Everybody is really, really black. And it's funny because I have a lot of clients from the East Coast, and I'm not against black, by the way, either. I think black can be really sleek and sexy. It's slimming, all of that. But it's when you wear it all the time, like throwing myself under the bus, how I was wearing it back in my like dark period to hide, that's what's not good. And, you know, and even if you're wearing black, if you pop like a red lip that you have on, that can also be really cool. Yeah. You like that too. And like the glitter that you have on your eyelids. I mean, it's stuff like that, like the shiny, sparkly things. They like that. But yeah, and what I say to women too is like taking a look at, and this is a therapist in me, what is it about wearing bright color is difficult for you? Sometimes there's deeper rooted stuff. I mean, not just being from New York, right? Like that could just be an environmental thing that you're used to. Yeah. Sometimes a lot of my women say, well, I don't like being seen. Like that's hard for me. because then if I get attention, I don't know what I would do with it, or I don't want to give the wrong impression, or I don't want to be too bold, or, you know, whatever it is that they say. I like to understand what that's about, because there's usually a layer underneath that. But then that's why color is such a fun thing to play with, because it can really get people who are hiding out of their shell. And it could be very little. It could be like a red shoe, you know, just to play with.
Or like a manicure or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'd say, okay, I know, and this is a whole other discussion. The third thing they really, really like, they love heels.
Okay.
They go gaga with heels. And I determined that there's 3 reasons why. One is, do you ever notice how your calves look when you have a little heel?
Yeah, they're all like perked up there.
Yeah, like you have a definition in your leg and your calf, and it just, they find that really, really sexy and sensual. The other thing is, think about it. It slows down your walk, and you have better posture when you're in a heel. Like, notice how you walk when you're in a pair of gym shoes or flats versus a heel. Like, you can't help but to kind of do a little more sexy moves with your body, right? Like, it just, yeah. And so the body posture really speaks to them, like the way that your attitude, your body language, they're reading all of that. I mean, we do that with men too, but I'm just saying in general. And this is what research says, within a first impression, which only takes 30 seconds, and now it's quicker with Bumble and Tinder. You don't get a lot. That people are making judgments and assumptions on 2 things. One is the clothes that you wear, and then the second is the attitude that you have. And within attitude, that's what's, you know, written on your face. That's your body language. It's how you move. And so, and I guess the third reason why they love heels is because, again, they don't wear them.
Right.
Like, anything that's not, you know, we become kind of like androgynous. Like, if you think, like, men are starting to dress more like women, and women are dressing more like men. But the truth be told, we both still like, we like when a man can be a little rugged, and, you know, and they just like that feminine flair and touch, and to embrace that. And again, you don't have to be all girly and Marilyn Monroe. Like, it's to each his own. And you, like, I always help people get their own style. If you're a little more bohemian, or you're girl next door, or maybe you're more vixen, you know, it just depends on what your comfort level is, but getting you something that fits your body type.
Right. So important. And before, you were referencing the energetic of love and money.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that and your magic formula for attraction?
Yes. Well, I see it all the time. You know, people will hire me, and I do phone coaching as well. And I have actually clients all over the world, and they'll come to me, like, let's say they're single, and they'll come to me for dating, you know. But what I find is what shows up in one area of your life leaks in other areas. And so when people are having more of, like, I say, a scarcity mindset when it comes to dating and men, there usually is a scarcity mindset around money as well. Okay. And so they'll come to me with money problems and whatnot, that they feel is almost secondary, or not even like in the equation when it comes to a man. But when they start working with me and they start shifting in the way they think and the way they feel, guess what happens? They get a promotion. They suddenly have more confidence at work. And like, oh my God, Kim, you're never gonna, like, they think it's almost woo-woo. But the truth is that they're creating that. And that is the difference between an abundant mindset versus a scarcity mindset. Mm-hmm. And that shows up both with love and money. So I think they're directly related to one another, because I do see, I mean, you look at all the gurus in the world and the leaders, you know, they have that belief that everything is there for them.
Right.
That it's an abundant life. Yeah. They don't believe that, you know, oh, well, woe is me, that can't be me. They wouldn't be where they were at if they had that mindset. So that's why I like to empower people, and empowering people with their clothes is a great first start. Yeah. So yeah, does that answer that? And
really, yeah. Did you answer what your magic formula is?
So my magic formula for attraction, it actually, I call it the 3 Fs. Ooh. And it's not the F you think about. However, if you do these 3 I'm sure you'll get there, but if that's what you want. And it's really simple. And the first one is kind of what we were talking about before, is to have fun.
Yeah.
Right? It's becoming playful and not just, with the things you say, but the things you do, and like really infuse that in your life. I was working with this woman and she called me up and I could tell that we were going to have a lot of work to do because I couldn't break her over the phone. Like I was cracking jokes and I was trying to have fun, and I was like dead silence at the other end, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, here's my credit card. I'll meet you at, such and such, date. And what do I need to do? What do I need to bring? I'm like, okay. So I show up in a red dress, of course.
Yeah.
And
you look fabulous, by the way, today.
What?
You look fabulous, by the way, today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, for me, like the red dress, we were actually working on networking, and she happened to be single. This is that money love relationship. She hired me not for dating. She hired me for business. And I knew that once we started working on this stuff, her single life would also change. So I did tell her that, but I was going where she was at. And so anyway, she shows up in this bun, corporate suit, and she holds out her hand. She's like, "Nice to meet you." Oh. And I'm like, "Hello," and I gave her a big hug, and she's like this,
Yeah.
Like, yeah, exactly. And I knew the first thing I had to do was let her hair down. Literally, I'm like, you know what? That hairdo, I want you to put that hair down, and we're going to go change. We're going to go to your place. I want you to put a dress on. That's the first and foremost, because I got to get you out of this like serious zone.
Right.
And you know what? We went to a lot of different places that night, and after coaching, we did a whole like day intensive together. Not only did she make great business contacts, but she got asked out that night. And she was, again, like she wasn't intending that, right? But see, that's what the magic is when you let all this stuff go in your head and you just allow that magnetic energy to come through. So that's the first and foremost, the fun. The second is fashion, and we just already talked about that. Right. So important how you show up. And the third is, of course, flirting. Yeah. So I do whole lessons on flirting, and I don't care if you're married, I don't care if you're single. For me, it's a way of life, right? Like I always say, flirt with life. Flirt with babies, flirt with dogs. It's just creating that magnetic energy. What's interesting, if you look in the dictionary of what flirting is. I was
gonna say, like, what is the definition of flirting?
Yeah, it's to behave as though you are attracted to something without the serious intention of an outcome. Oh. And that last part is really, really important, without the serious intention of an outcome, because that is why a lot of times people don't flirt, because they're attached to the outcome. Think about it. That's where the excuses come in. Oh, I don't want to give him the wrong impression. Oh, I want him to like me for my intellect, not just my body. Oh my God, the list goes on and on and on. I'm not good at it.
Yeah, and like it's like you get attached to that outcome.
They attached, right, but that's not what flirting is intended to do. It's a way of being, it's staying present, it's being playful, it's having fun. I mean, I tell women all the time, isn't it a great problem to have if you have all these guys like surrounding you and you get to choose who you want to move on?
Right.
Right? Like, why wouldn't you do that? We have good judgment. We know what feels right and what feels wrong. Why wouldn't we just create that for ourselves? And, when I do that with clients, when I'm out and about with them, so many times my clients meet guys while I'm out coaching with them, and they think I planted these guys. I'm like, I don't know that many guys. Yeah. It's just the magic that happens when you let all this stuff go.
Yeah, the energy. How cool. I love your attraction system. And now it makes sense why I pulled this particular goddess card for you, Abundancia, prosperity. It says the universe is pouring its abundance out to you. Be open to receiving.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That's so apropos, right? Yeah. That's exactly what I was talking about. And I embrace that. And even in the darkest hour, like when I had hit bottom, in my story, if I stayed there, if I stayed at the bottom, I could have stayed under the covers and been stuck. my life would have been very different right now. I wouldn't be here today talking to you. I wouldn't have. I never would have dreamed that I was be here 15 years later.
No.
But, you know, and so for me, like adversity sometimes is gifts in disguise, but we don't see it at the time. It's not till we're through it and we look back and we say, there's the gift.
Right.
And that's the abundance, you know. So thank you for that gift. That was really great.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, I know that our listeners are going to want to keep in touch with you, and you generously offered a free gift. So love if you share a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, we were talking about, I forecasted a little bit about knowing your body type. So I created a free body shape guide. And what it is it'll teach you all at home how to measure yourself. And basically, you're going to measure your shoulders, your waist, and your hips. And that will determine what body type you are. There are 5 body types. And then in the guide, I go over what kind of works on, like the different cuts that we were talking about, what works on your particular body type and what clothes to stay away from. And again, it makes shopping so much more pleasurable, and it's exciting once you know what to look for when you're shopping. And then if you download that, I also give a little discount on my virtual makeovers, which are super fun.
Ooh, yeah, I was looking through your website. I was like, you're good. These makeovers look amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was super fun. And like the 1-hour session, I can do a lot. So it doesn't matter where you live in the country. We get on like Zoom, like we're doing now, and we do a 1-hour session. I teach you about your brands and your colors and share my screen, and we go virtual shopping. And so, yeah, you can do this stuff right now.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing your gift and all your expertise with us. And it was a pleasure speaking with you.
You too. Thanks for having me and sharing me with your community. So
absolutely. Awesome. Well, to everyone out there, we'll see you next time. Bye.